May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, happy Friday, everybody. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz marketing talk. I am Scott, your host, and a man who doesn't quite believe in decorating the house for Halloween because the season is just too short. You know, but my neighbors here in Phoenix actually have their lights up. They have smoke machines, ghosts flying everywhere. It's like it's a real thing here. So that's pretty exciting. And speaking of blowing smoke, producer Paul is out there somewhere in producing land where he will someday receive this recording, and he will make it into the actual show for you in like 3 to 5 business weeks per usual. Just kidding, you know, it never goes that quickly. But we miss you on the air, Paul, and we hope to have you back here in the studio so we can talk again real soon. So, who am I? What do I do? And how do you reach me? I run a PR marketing consultancy in Arizona now, and business owners struggle with marketing. I come in and fix it. I'm a certified story brand guide, so I create better brand stories, website wireframes, sales copy, and of course, our secret weapon, public relations for my clients. And don't forget my new book, Just Stop It, Your Survival Guide to Marketing Myths, Mistakes, and Misgivings, is now available on Kindle, at Amazon, also Barnes & Noble, and it's also available on the black market in fine flea markets all across the Middle East, to be honest. So if you like the show, you will love the book. It's a lot of fun. It's sort of my voice, condensed in there. And as one person told me recently, said, you've captured all of your anger towards marketing and focused it into one book. And so that was my goal. So I hope you enjoy it. Today, I am very excited to welcome to the show a legit privacy expert. She is a certified information privacy professional, a national keynote speaker, an author who has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Inc., The Economist, Thrive Global, Authority Magazine, Medium, and she's also a member of the Forbes Business Council. She is the founder and CEO of Red Clover Advisors, coming at you from Atlanta, Georgia. Please welcome Jodi Daniels. Hey, Jodi.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we are going to dig into some privacy today. It's going to be fun. So I'm just going to get right into it. Why do you think marketers tread so close to the line regarding privacy?
Well, marketers are collecting a significant amount of personal information. They have name, email, company, phone number, they're potentially buying lists. And then in the online digital space, we have IP targeting, potentially location targeting, trying to figure out exactly where I am so you can send me that super awesome coupon, and a long list of other things. And so they're part of the organization that is, again, collecting a significant amount of information with the goal of targeting just the right customer to get me to convert. And when it comes to privacy laws, some of those laws are changing the way marketers have been able to do things for the last 10, 15 years. And not everyone likes change so much. And people are going to try and use what they can all the way up until it's not okay. It's kind of like when I tell my kids, okay, we're going to do something in 5 minutes. They don't stop a minute before to close it all down and get all ready. They use every single last little bit until, mom finally says, okay, we have to go. It's kind of the same thing here. You have the privacy laws. We're going to try and use all the data, all the ways it can possibly do it, right up until the one.
I love that you compare marketers to children right off the bat. It's like what a apropos, what a super appropriate comparison. I could totally see that, especially as we start to use phrases like "got your hand caught in the cookie jar," things like that. So my audience is mostly marketers. So you're speaking to a lot of marketers and would-be marketers, and even like we let digital marketers in, believe it or not, even though they're not real marketers, but we let them in anyway. And, but what do marketers need to know about privacy, and how does this change the job moving forward?
Well, there's a lot that marketers need to know. The very first thing is that privacy is not going away. I think a lot of people thought there was this GDPR thing. And if you were a marketer dealing with a US company, you got to ignore it. Woohoo! Haha, other marketer friends, good luck. Well, now you have to deal with it too for a variety of reasons. One, in the United States, in 2023, there's going to be 5 state privacy laws. If you're wondering who, California already has one, but California is getting an upgrade. And anyone who thought, oh, I'm only in the B2B space, I'll ignore that too, you get to come to the party as well, because B2B is now included officially and completely in January. Virginia joins the party. And then we have Colorado and Connecticut in July of 2023 and Utah at the end of December, or the end of 2023 in December. Other laws around the world are popping up, and companies who might have done just a little bit for GDPR are really embracing it. And why? Well, a couple of reasons. One is, especially in the B2B market, anyone who's trying to market, it is now a requirement to comply to be able to close the sale. I have many companies who say, I can't close the sale, I can't finish unless I comply. The other is in a B2C world. Guess what? Those consumers don't understand the difference of what is happening in Europe versus here. And Jodi in Georgia doesn't know the difference of, what Susie in California gets. So the expectation is just privacy, and consumers care. 2/3 of consumers feel like there should be more regulation online. 99% of people care about what's happening to them online. I don't know what about the 1%. I guess, there's always the dissenter somewhere, but people care about what is happening. So you have to understand that the laws aren't going away, and we're going to kind of dive into it. But the number one thing you have to do is know your data. You have to know what data you have and in which systems you have it and how you use it. You can't just take a systems approach, because that doesn't tell you how you use it. So if you take anything from what I have today, I hope that you walk away and say, that Jodi lady told me I have to know my data. I have to know what I have, what I collect, where I store it, and how I use it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's talk about somebody who didn't do that. Let's talk about Sephora. So we all saw the penalties levied recently on Sephora in California. Maybe give us a summary of what happened there, and then who do you think is next and why?
Well, what happened with Sephora is, in the digital world, we're using different technologies. We're using pixels and social media advertising platforms and analytics platforms to try and be able to gather data and deliver really targeted message, and then understand what is actually happening. In that situation, those other parties, those social media companies, those other advertising companies are delivering. They're giving us great targeted advertising and measuring for us, but they're also using the data for their algorithm. And in the eyes of the California Attorney General, that is considered a sale of data. Sale of data under the California law is very unique. It's long, it's complicated. I invite you to go Google it if you'd like to. But essentially, it is for monetary or other valuable consideration. And so this exchange falls into the other valuable consideration. Let's use our friends at Facebook. I go searching for mascara on Sephora. I didn't buy it. I go over to Facebook. Sephora wants to serve me a mascara ad, so I come back and buy it. Sephora's happy. They targeted me, a great customer. Facebook's happy too, because now it uses the data to build its algorithm that I apparently am a woman who likes mascara, and it does whatever it does with me. Well, Sephora didn't agree with that definition of a sale of data, and so they didn't do the requirements as a result. If you sell data, then you're supposed to have a link that says, do not sell my personal information. You're supposed to list in the privacy notice that you sell data. And the other thing that we're moving towards is this idea of a global privacy control. If you haven't heard of that, go to Google, globalprivacycontrol.com. And it's kind of a universal opt-out. It's kind of the modern version of where we're going. And I'll be honest, it's not fully fleshed out yet, but the state attorney generals believe it is. And they caught Sephora for not complying with that too. So who do I think will be next? There are actually a variety of other companies that are expected to have enforcement action soon. I don't know who that's going to be, but they're really focused on this digital advertising piece. So anyone who has cookies and pixels and tracking and targeting is vulnerable. It's also easy to see. I can tell very easily from the outside, did you update your privacy notice? Can I opt out of cookies? Do you have a cookie policy? Those are all external things that anyone, hint, people in the Attorney General's office can look at and figure out you are or are not doing what they expect you to be doing. So I encourage everyone to understand that under CCPA, we now have a precedent that says ad tech equals a sale of data under CCPA, the California Consumer Privacy Act. You might not agree, and that is fine, but the Attorney General doesn't agree with you, and they're the ones who make these fines. So I highly encourage you to maybe adopt their philosophy for your website.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it gives a double meaning to our phrase earlier, comparing marketers to children and getting your hand caught in the cookie jar. Getting your hand caught in that cookie jar sounds even worse. So California has its own privacy laws. You mentioned other states adopting similar versions. When will the United States Congress impose some sort of master set of privacy laws? Or is that the global thing? Or is the global thing literally global, like the entire world? Or does global in that sense mean, like we say, World Series, but the world is just the United States?
Yeah. I don't think we're ever going to have a global privacy law. I don't think we have a global anything law, really. So I don't see a global privacy law. Global privacy control is a universal ability at a browser level to be able to opt out for all sites. Now what happens is you have to go to each individual site and keep managing your cookies. That's annoying. And so the idea is at the browser level to be able to do that. People who've been in this field for a while might remember Do Not Track. It was sort of the same idea, except it doesn't work unless the site listens to it. No one listened to it, so it didn't go anywhere. We're sort of at the same place with this idea of a global privacy control, but we are being encouraged by all of these different states to figure out some type of universal consent mechanism. And there are sites today that are doing it. You can go to global privacy control as a consumer and as a business to learn more. In terms of the federal law, we are the closest we've ever been to a privacy law now. Its acronym is ADPA, the American Data Privacy Protection Act. But it is not passed because there's a couple issues with it. The very first and biggest one is state preemption. What do I mean by that? The current law being introduced is it'd be the ceiling. And so no state could have a law that surpassed and went above and beyond the federal law. And you have states like California who say, no, that's terrible. I don't think this law is good enough for my residents. I want my law. And so they're fighting and arguing over preemption. GDPR is a floor.
Right.
Other member states are countries, can have stricter interpretations and stricter laws on top of GDPR. And that's what those other states, there's about 10 of them, who believe it should be above and beyond. And so there's an argument there. The other big issue in the argument is private right of action. And right now, California is the only state that has any private right of action. And it's narrow if the company were to have a data breach and they had basically no reasonable security measures in place. So Jodi's a small business, or any size business. Jodi's a business. I get hacked. I had no security measures. I didn't do anything. Everyone's data is out there on the marketplace. And that means Scott, you could have been one of my customers. You could sue me. That's the way it works right now, with some caveats. In this other law, there's concern over could the private right of action is a little bit bigger. It's not just for data breaches. And there's real concern that it'll just be litigation city. And those are the really big issues. And so it's a crystal political dart. of what will actually happen with a privacy law. There are large companies that want one. There are small companies that want one, but it's not a perfect situation because of all the reasons I've just described.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great overview. So privacy, obviously is much, marketing has a concern in privacy, obviously, but privacy is a much bigger issue than just marketing. How should organizations, the totality of organizations, be approaching privacy today? I mean, who should own it in an organization? I mean, obviously marketing and IT, which don't always traditionally work spectacularly together, need to sort of come together. There are, legals in there, obviously, because it ends up making work for legal. If IT and marketing get it wrong, it ends up being work for legal. The C-suite's got to know something because, it comes up, things like that. So, I mean, in this kind of complex thing and how organizations work, who should own privacy in an organization, and really how should organizations be looking at it and approaching it?
It's a great question. My very first answer is that it should be owned by whomever is going to care the most about privacy. That is the real answer. And sometimes that is someone in marketing because they own the website and they know, oh, there's a privacy notice that I need to deal with. And it's their brand that comes on the outside. So they know the external pieces that they need to do. And then they realize, oh, there's all these other internal pieces. Other times it's a legal, a compliance, a CFO who might own risk or legal issues. And they own it because they're looking at it from the risk and compliance and legal lens. And then they need to work with the marketing team. Other times it's whoever owns security in the organization because they're closest to the privacy side. They have to work together. The thing about privacy is it's kind of homeless sometimes because it really is a cross-functional piece and there's so many different layers. Someone has to own the pieces inside, even if you go and hire, externally. We're the external fractional privacy office for companies, but we always have an internal person that's our main contact and can kind of help guide us through the company. And then, we do all the tactical things. So here, you couldn't just outsource it to IT and say, oh, they're going to solve for it. Because IT will typically focus on the systems. And here we have a privacy notice, for example. The privacy notice that goes in the footer of your website, it has to talk about what happens on your website. Well, that's best served by whoever owns the main parts of the website. If you're sort of a brochure kind of website, let me tell you everything about our company, that might be the website owners, or the marketing team. If you're an e-commerce company, that can kind of be honestly anyone who's just the lucky person to wear the privacy hat. I work with almost every function for e-commerce companies. And so I don't mean to make it sound as if it doesn't have a single owner, but it kind of doesn't. And sometimes you find privacy people and privacy organizations that sit in data. They sit, again, in marketing, the legal or compliance. It also ties to the culture and strategy and values of the company. Is privacy just this thing they have to check off? Or is it really connected to the brand? In any event, I believe there should be privacy champions, privacy advocates throughout, and marketing is definitely one because they have a significant treasure trove of data. In fact, in some situations, a majority of the data.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. I've always been a big advocate of privacy because, if you believe that marketing is about creating relationships, one of the best ways to ruin a relationship is to get privacy wrong. And I think that, when I was director of marketing communications at NAM, that's when I first became aware of and started, basically at the, in the early 2000s, when the canned spam laws were coming out, I said, I raised my hand and said, look, we have to start paying attention to this. We have to start adding these opt-outs, to our emails. I said, and then the larger question is, how can we do marketing that's so great that no one will ever want to opt out? How can we be so great for them that that's not even an option, that that's not even something that comes into their mind? Not only that we would comply, I've always kind of said, I said, if you need the government to, protect people from you, then you don't know what the hell you're doing in terms of marketing, because our profession is supposed to create things that people want. And we're supposed to create things that enrich and deepen the relationship. And the minute that we get into the goose that laid the golden egg side of things and say, well, let's cut this bad boy open and see how many eggs are inside its belly, kind of thing. That's where marketing's, I think, it falls into it, especially when you start to get that. When you start to get that sales objective that overrides the relationship objective, that's when things start to go south. And I've seen that in my own career, and I've seen that lots of other places. But my message out there to all my listeners, to all marketers, is we need to own privacy, and not for the reasons of compliance with the California state government. We need to own privacy because it is the key to the relationship that we're trying to build. And if we become the reason why people are running away from the company, then we literally have done the opposite of the job that we're supposed to do. And so that's why we need to kind of, pay attention to that. On that subject, Jodi, I'm very against funnels. I talk about it a lot. I talk about one of the problems I have with funnels is that people rarely measure the top. They only measure the bottom, and it's like, I always ask people how, they say, oh, we got a 12% return rate on the bottom of our funnel. And I say, what's the top look like? I was like, so if you got 12 at the bottom, I said, is there 88 that is now hates you? Talk to me about the top of the funnel, right? Because if you're and that kind of thing, and people they don't collect that data. They don't care at all. And when I ask that question, I say, we should be caring about that. What do you think about the funnel and how it's transformed marketing and how it relates to privacy?
Well, the funnel is all about trying to get as many people as you can and then convert them at the bottom. So you're right. People are measuring that conversion. And I tie this to what you just talked about, where you're trying to get people to understand your products and services and create such a connection that they find it valuable and then they want to buy. The more people you put at the top of the funnel, you're collecting more information, and they might not be the right people. And so if you get all of those people and then you use their information in ways that surprises them, that isn't in line with what they expected, and it's of course not valuable, well, then those are the people that are going to opt out. And all these different individual rights, for anyone not familiar with that phrase, that's the idea in privacy laws that say, Jodi can ask for my information to be deleted. If I'm going to ask you to delete my information, I have to really be mad at you. You had to have done something that makes me mad. So tying it to the funnel, the more people you have in your funnel that aren't the right people, those are the ones that are going to be mad at you if you surprise them, use data in ways that they didn't expect, don't provide good value to them, ask for information that they don't want to give you, or they'll give you wrong information and then you're actually making wrong decisions. For me, privacy, yes, there's laws. We should comply with them. Most people don't decide, I don't like that law. I don't think I'm going to comply with that one. Most good businesses want to comply with them and be good stewards. So privacy laws are just like all the other ones we're supposed to be following. It relates, though, to trust. And we're trying, as marketers, we want people to trust, hey, our product and service is going to solve your problem, give you this awesome desire and fulfill your need and wishes and wants, and the world's going to be lovely. We use language to convert them for that. Well, the privacy piece is the same. Oh, if you want to know me better and you want to make sure you have the right segments and targets, I'm only going to give you that accurate information if I trust you. Otherwise, I'm going to give you bad information, and guess what you do? You make bad decisions. And then I get really mad at your bad decisions. And so then I ask for you to delete me. And for me, that's the intersection between marketing and privacy. It's that element of trust. And to me, how we have language and connection and asking at the right time and making it valuable. And then all of this privacy stuff isn't a problem because I'm not going to ask you for any of these things. There's no surprise.
Right, man. Well, and that's well stated. And so many marketers, just don't get that. They just don't, they don't, their thought process doesn't, I meet with marketing companies all the time. And then I have conversations about, empathy for the audience and the relationship and that kind of stuff. And it's like, it's like I'm a person trying to teach a monkey math. They just kind of look at me and go, what? Do you have a banana for me? I mean, I'm like, this is where we use the thinking cap and we start thinking about stuff that we do before we execute. And that solves so many problems. But let's talk about you for a second. So why you've self-identified as a marketer. You've said we as marketers. So I know that you got a marketing background. So why are you so interested in privacy, and what drew you to the field?
Well, what drew me to the field is I built a behaviorally targeted ad network. I was at autotrader.com and I stalked you for cars. So, if you came to our site, that was super popular at a prior era. It was kind of before the Facebook ads situation. And I would try and convince you to buy XYZ car. The online advertising industry came together and said, we should really prevent government legislation that was percolating. And it worked for about 10 years. I was responsible for implementing that at the company. Really, the company grew, it expanded, it had acquisitions, and I was looking for something new. So I ultimately built a privacy program because I found it really interesting and fascinating, and it was a challenge and it was new. And then from there, just continued to grow. And I have a very strong passion and love for the marketing side. So I've always stayed with the digital expertise, but I just think I like the idea of marketing. I find the idea of strategy and trying to deliver a really great experience for customers and trying to convince them that this is going to solve their problem or their need. I think it's really interesting, all the different new tools and technologies that try and facilitate those kinds of relationships. I've always been a relationship-driven person. And what's happened is online, the people part is outside of it. When you used to go to the furniture store, you talk to the person and then you buy your furniture, you'd come back 5 years later, your kids have grown, you're going to buy the next thing. And they kind of knew you, or at least your order was in the system and you felt like there was a human talking to you. Now it's a whole bunch of bots and cool technology trying to determine what you're in the market for. And I feel like the element of relationship has gone away. Personally, there's a big brand that I don't want the nursery stuff anymore. And I like the brand, but I'm stuck with all the nursery stuff because they don't have the right tools in place to get me to like the next set. And my kids are older now. I find that really interesting and fascinating. I think the element of trust, which is something I've been talking about since I started, is real. And that's what marketing is all about. It's about trust and relationships. And now we just have some privacy laws here. Why? The reality is a whole bunch of marketers messed it up. A whole bunch of companies did things that they weren't supposed to. They totally got their hand caught in the cookie jar, and poof, now we have laws. It's kind of like back in kindergarten, again, referring back to kids. But when so-and-so, stood up and ran around and didn't do what they were supposed to, guess what? Now everyone has to sit and raise their hand until it's their turn to go and do something. It's the same thing. And so I just have a passion to try and make it simple and get people to understand the massive connection to their brand. You mentioned Sephora earlier. Guess what? All those PR people are not getting to talk about how awesome Sephora is. They're trying to deal with the headline, real headline. Sephora fined $1.2 million for selling sensitive consumer data.
That is not a fun weekend for anybody. Believe me, I've done that. But let's talk about, so you exhibit empathy for the audience, right? So much. So, and that is, to me, that is the difference right there. If you begin the conversation with empathy for them and put yourself in their position, then so many things that are bad in marketing, don't happen. And I think that, I think it's just really important that that is called out, because not everybody who talks about marketing talks about empathy for the audience. I want to talk about personalization for a second, because I get this question a lot. I think because people, whenever they do a survey, they say, would you like to have a more personalized buying journey from this company? And of course, people say, oh, yes, I would. Do they really? Because personalization to me goes from really cool and technologically awesome to holy shit, that's creepy in about 5 seconds. And I think that I think we crossed the creepy line really fast. And my personal theory is that people do not want personalization if it means you have to demonstrate some sort of detailed knowledge about what they want, because we have a pushback mechanism. Or is that an age thing too? People have said the age that's growing up, now, the Gen Zs, even the millennials don't have that. As a Gen Xer myself, I remember I was standing in line at CVS, and I was and I had a bottle of cough syrup in my hand. And then I got a notice on my phone, and it said, well, here's a coupon for that bottle for that cough syrup, while I was in line with it. And I started looking around for the cameras, and I was extraordinarily creeped out at that moment. I was like, I don't care how you did it. I don't care what you did. I left the store. I was like, no, that's, I will pay an extra $1 for you to leave my ass alone. What do you think about personalization?
So there's a really fascinating study by Integral Ad Sciences in 2022, if anyone finds this fun and fascinating. And they studied privacy and personalization and marketing. And one of the stats is that 34% of customers do want personalization. And in the era as we move away from cookies, what's going to happen? We're going to have more personal information. And talking about your funnel, we're going to have to rely on more people at the top of the funnel, and you're going to need more quality to get them further down. So I think people do want personalization, but they don't want it at too fast. They want it at their timetable and when it feels good for them. Here's an interesting example. I have gone to a couple different coffee shops around the country, and they've used the same payment processor. I'll let that payment processor remain nameless. But they obviously have a standard sequence that they're offering coffee shops or small businesses, because it's, hi, we're so glad you're here. I didn't give them my email, by the way. They've just connected it because of the card that I used. I didn't try and sign up for it. And there's no, here's who we are and we're wonderful. And hey, are you ever even going to come back to our coffee shop? The next email is, give me your birth date so that I can give you, your free coffee or a discount, or join my loyalty club. Like, I just got to know you. In the dating phase, there's personalization that's going on. I get to know you, but you don't typically, the relationship experts would say, don't divulge your entire life history in the first 5 minutes. That's kind of what technology has done, is let's just smush it all together and let me figure out who you are. Let me guess who you are, or let me ask you right away for all the personal information now. Then I'm going to put it all up and give you exactly what you want. No, Let me guide you a little bit. If we think about e-commerce, well, you know what? If you sell men's and women's and kids, I might have no kids. I might just want women. Like, let me personalize now what kind of newsletters I want, because I don't want all the other stuff. Sometimes people will know that, and that will be a valuable experience, but to force them down that path in a way that kind of turns them off is where I think that personalization goes wrong. But if people do it and it's offered to them on their timetable, then I think you're going to get the accurate information. You won't be creeped out, and then everyone wins.
Yeah, I got I've said this in the show a couple times, but I got from a hamburger joint that will remain nameless. I got an email from them, and they said, "We miss you." I was in a rewards program. They said, "We miss you," and I kind of looked at the email for a second, and I was like, "I'm sorry, what? You miss me?" And I was like, "What do you miss about me? What is it about me that you miss? Do you miss my money? Is that what you miss? Do you miss? Do you miss my lovely smile? Do you and it's like, you almost want to kind of answer back, and you're like, don't put meaningless garbage into an email and send it to me and take up my valuable time just because your marketing automation engine requires 5 posts a week. Because then I get an email that says you miss me, and I'm not sure emotionally if I'm ready to get into a relationship with a hamburger chain, and I'm not sure if they can handle the rejection if I decide to eat at another one. If I decide to eat at this hamburger chain versus this one, it's like, it's not you, it's me. I really want it in and out this week. I mean, it's a weird message. It's a weird message. And it really creeped me out. And I was kind of like, I was like, if it reminds me of kind of a rule I have in marketing. If you don't have anything to say, shut up. Don't say anything. I love being quiet. I'm one of the few marketers you're going to meet that says, if we don't have anything to say, we should just shut it. We can absolutely just be super quiet and wait for our window. And when we have something really meaningful to say, we jump in, we punch in, and it's great and it's awesome. But I disagree with this idea, and it's driven by marketing automation engines, people that use Hootsuite and stuff. And they say, Hootsuite says, you should be posting on social media, I don't know, 10 or 15 times a week. No, you shouldn't. Allow me as a marketing professional and also receiver of the message to tell you that you shouldn't be doing that. That's too much. No one cares. And so it's like, and at some point you've, like I said, you've got to use that empathy and say, should we send a message that says we miss people? How do we say that? That is, how do we say that doesn't make people feel like, they're breaking up with the hamburger chain? You know what I mean? And I think that, there's not enough thought at the beginning of the process, Jodi. And I think that's what happens when I'm calling to fix bad marketing. I was talking about a funnel before. One thing I did want to say is that I tend to say I like to use magnets. And the magnet that I like to use is, number one piece is you create a great story that's all about them and solving their problems, that kind of thing. People are always going to want that because they need their problem solved. Two, we create great content that's valuable for them, very valuable for them, and not salesy and not creepy or anything like that. And then three, my secret weapon is I like to bring in, public relations and have, the media and influencers and analysts say how great the brand is, how great the company is, how great the product is, that kind of thing. And I think if you do those things really well, you attract an audience to you and you stay very far on the right side of the line in terms of privacy, and you won't have to listen to the state of California and all of its fun stuff. But let's talk about the future. So what is coming in the future regarding privacy, and what should organizations out there be doing to prepare themselves?
More laws are coming. We have the 5 in 2023, and you asked about the national law. If it doesn't pass, you have a lot of states that really like that law. There's a significant chance that they might take it, adopt it for their state, and pass it. In this last legislative season, we had over 27 states introduce privacy laws. They obviously all didn't pass, but many of those states are back for the third, fourth time. And then we had some newcomers. You'll see that trajectory continue to increase, and I think you will start to see more of them pass. So more laws are here. Globally, there are more laws coming, and enforcement actions against all of those laws are also coming. Outside of the legal compliance side, customers are getting it and understanding more. Their expectation, again, is starting at a baseline of privacy. Apple introduced their opt-in. So now every app that pops up that someone downloads, they're being asked, would you like to opt in to tracking? Well, a whole bunch of people might not have even realized that it was there. And now they're faced with, do I want you to track me? No, I don't want you to track me, and turn that off. More technology is going to kind of be asking, and we're moving down more of a consent-driven situation. And marketers need to understand that and relish that, because that's the chance to be able to convince them, like you just said, with really great content. Why am I going to opt in? Now, if I opt in the first time, don't bombard me with the second message of what's your birth date, right? Warm up, create what the right cadence is going to be, because you're building a relationship with a digital pixel on the other side that you don't necessarily know who they are. So the future is that privacy is here to stay, that we're going to have more laws, that customers, consumers are getting more savvy with them. And it's a differentiator. Now, right now, there's still an opportunity to make that be the differentiation. Your competitor might not be doing it as well as they could, or not at all. They're still waiting and hoping it'll go away. That's your chance to say, oh, I can beat them. I see companies using it as a feature. Here's all the great things that we do. Oh, and here's how we do privacy and security. Here's how we handle that information that you're going to give us. So right now is an opportunity, and pretty soon it's just going to be table stakes. So take advantage of the opportunity while you have it.
I love it. I love your perspective on it. It's great. Is there anything else you want to add?
Well, I think I want people to understand it really is about building trust. And the laws are complicated. They're technical. Don't copy your best friend's website, because your best friend or competitor's website is not yours. They're all different. I talked to a company yesterday, and the privacy notice that they got doesn't work for them. We're going to just start all over and make sure they get what is unique to them. So realize that it's an opportunity. It's here to stay. It can be your friend. You know, friends are better than foes and enemies. And it's all about trying to make it simple. The other thing I would offer is, while these are complex, you can't do everything at the beginning. I started the conversation with all about knowing your data. So at the end, I want you to realize, okay, what data do I have and what do we do with it? Do I need all of that data? Think of the customer first. Put yourself and your customer for every decision that you have. And hopefully that will be a positive guiding light to you building trust with that customer.
I love it. I love it. So how should my listeners get in touch with you if they want to hire you or just kind of bask in your privacy knowledge?
Two great places, and thank you so much. So LinkedIn, I post lots of content on LinkedIn. I don't post 12 times a week on LinkedIn though.
Yay.
You can come find me over there. And then our website is redcloveradvisors.com. And the exciting thing is we have a great new book that is out. You can get the digital version, the hard copy, the paper, whichever variety you like. And it's all about trying to make privacy simple and approachable for marketers and the business professional.
Awesome. Well, everybody needs to get that book. What's the name of the book?
It's called Data Reimagined, Building Trust One Bite at a Time.
Oh, okay. It's not you got your hand caught in the cookie jar. Google.
I did not go with that title.
I'm looking at you, Google. Yeah. So, well, awesome. Thank you so much, Jodi. So what have we learned, folks? We learned that getting privacy wrong ends the marketing relationship, and that is very bad. And we know that marketers can lead this discussion instead of waiting to be fined by it. If we start with empathy, I always think we can get privacy right. A big thanks for being on the show, Jodi Daniels. Thank you so much. Folks, that is it for me. We will see you next time on May the Best Brand Win on InnerTalk Media.